I sat down with Kofuzi to talk about how he's gotten faster in midlife and also to talk about running shoes. The following conversation is the first half of that conversation. I just said conversation twice. If you feel so compelled to like and subscribe to this channel, please do not let me stop you. I hope you enjoy this conversation. 3 times. Can I give you the Kofuzi Run Club live stream intro?
Yeah, please.
Right. Hold on. Yo, what's going on? It is 2:07 p.m. here in San Antonio, Texas. Today is Tuesday, July the 9th. For all of you audio-only listeners, the LBNLs, I hope you are having an absolutely miserable run today. That the headwinds are 20 miles an hour. It is hot. It is humid. The dew point is off the charts. You're somehow also at altitude. You are running on a mountain in Florida. And this run sucks. It's a real character builder. And in 2 months' time, in 3 months' time, when you are on your marathon run 20 miles deep and in pain, this is the run that gets you through listening to this very conversation between Andrew and Mike, talking about how Mike got faster at midlife. How was that?
That was awesome. I love it. I'm hooked. I'm ready for the whole episode now.
All right, sweet. So that is the purpose of this conversation. Do you want to frame it in a way where talking about your point A to point B, like where you started running and then at midlife, and then I know you used to run when you were younger, but like when you returned to it, where were you then? How fast were you? And then how many years later, where you are now and how fast you are now?
Yeah, so when I kind of returned to running as an adult, I was 30, and it was after many years of being sedentary. So I had no pace at all. And I actually didn't know how fast I was going because I wasn't using a GPS watch. Most people weren't. This was 2010. And so I would basically like look at the microwave before I left and then run and then look at the microwave when I got back. And then I would go to map my run and map out what I think my route was and then kind of just figure it out from there. That first marathon that I trained for in 2010, though, I think it was like a 4:45 or something like that. So a pretty good first marathon attempt. My goal was to go under 4 hours. So, things kind of went sideways compared to what I thought I could do, but that might have been a little bit ambitious. So that was 2010. And then right now, my fastest marathon was in 2023, I think, Tokyo Marathon. That was a 2:56. So quite a bit of difference.
Yeah, that's so fast, dude. It's
It's a 13-year gap, but
no, that's fantastic. Is there a point? I know when you do shoe reviews on YouTube, you say, "My name is Kofuzi. I'm a non-elite runner who reviews shoes on YouTube." Is there a point where you're going to have to change the verbiage to like, "My name is Kofuzi. I'm a somewhat elite runner here on YouTube"?
No. And like the whole idea with the non-elite is because, early on in the reviews, when I was doing reviews, I would get so much feedback back from people that were saying like, what am I going to listen to this guy for? Like, he's not fast, And so my whole point of view has always been like, I'm just the guy in your run club who happens to be wearing the shoes you were thinking about buying the other day. And you're asking him questions, and so I try to kind of talk to it from that level. And so it's not always talking to the entire potential running world. I'm not talking about, I don't explain what midsole is, what outsole is, what insole is, like every video. I assume you kind of know that because you're in my run club,
Mm-hmm.
And so I talk to you as like kind of like another kind of like a little bit of a shoe nerd to shoe nerd is the way that I usually talk about shoes. And I want opinions from other people that are like me and are running kind of like similar to what I run and who have paces similar to what I run. And I want to know what they think about a shoe. And so like I'm setting the stage early on that the framework is like, I'm not trying to steal anyone's shine who is on that like sub-elite bubble and take anything away from you. I'm a non-elite guy talking to another non-elite runners, and that's where it comes from. So it's like a deflection more than anything.
Okay, cool.
That's why the non-elite comes in there. And not to say that like at some point I aspire to say I'm a sub-elite runner who reviews running shoes on YouTube. It'll always be non-elite.
For sure. So the starting point then, 445 down to 256. What are, say, YouTube likes arbitrary numbers of things. 3 things that you did to get faster? Because a lot of people who watch my channel, I think they're here for the jokes. They're probably here despite my attempts at humor. But I would say that they're following my journey. I started running at 40 in midlife, and I'm trying to get faster. They're trying to get faster. I've messed with the Maffetone method. I've done speed blocks. I've done fast. But you're somebody who has the receipts, as they say. So what have you done to get faster?
I think running consistently has been the main thing. And like all the other kind of like modes and methods that I've used are ones that I've kind of like guess and checked and figured out that they work for me and might not necessarily work for everyone. So, I like low heart rate running. I like high mileage running. That doesn't work for everyone, and that's fine. But I think what does work for everyone is being consistent over years. So my first marathon in 2010 was a literal couch to marathon. I signed up in May, Memorial Day weekend, and the race was the Baltimore Running Festival marathon in like mid-October. So it was like 5 months of running from no activity, like history as a runner, like in a distant past, to trying to run the marathon distance. So that was painful, and I don't recommend couch to marathon for anyone, no matter what your history was. After that, it was so terrible of an experience that I took a 6-year break from running, and then finally got back into it again and started kind of experimenting with different shoes and realizing that, it's not just whatever, a running shoe. There are different kinds of shoes, and some can be much more fun than others. And so when I was able to kind of figure out, there's some shoes that I really prefer compared to other shoes, it makes the experience much better. I started running, and then I started realizing, hey, I don't have to stop at the end of the summer like I used to always do. I can kind of keep running year round, and I don't have to have that kind of like fitness lag that I used to always have in between seasons. I can just kind of keep rolling through. And so once I started running year round, I think that was when the times really started to drop.
That's awesome. Do you remember, I know you were like tracking with the microwave. Were you tracking how much time a week you were running, how many miles you were running in the early days?
Yeah, it wasn't super meticulous because I was kind of using Strava, but a lot of the early running was in the pre-Strava days. So that first marathon in 2010, I was a combination of like Map My Run. That's the one that got bought by Under Armour, right? That one. And then a couple of other different ones that I was using. So I was never consistent, and I never really looked at it from a weekly perspective, but I was doing Hal Higdon programs for the first couple of marathons. So I think I was topping out maybe at 40 miles a week and skipping all of the cross training. That was definitely something I remember about that. If it said like rest day and or cross training, I was like, not doing anything today. Feet up, and it wasn't even feet up, but it was just absolutely nothing. And so I wasn't super fit aerobically for an endurance event like the marathon. So yeah, 40 would have been a peak week, I think.
Okay, awesome. And then what about for like Tokyo? What did you peak out on mileage on there?
I think I had 84, and then I had I was kind of probably averaged 80 miles a week for like 4 weeks, like 78, 82, 84, then back to 78 kind of thing. So it was right around the low 80s range.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I was looking for some sound bites. I didn't know. I was looking for like ketone IQ or, carbon rods, some secret, some secret.
Yeah.
That's it.
No, consistency is it. And I mean, carbon shoes definitely helped, so like I want to say my last non-carbon marathon would have been in a pair of Nike pegs. That would have been 2018, I think. That was a 320 something, and then after that, my first race I think I raced in a pair of Vaporfly 4%. No, that was the 317. My last non-carbon race was 340. So like a difference of a year, which is a big deal. A year is a big deal. It's not all the shoes, but and more mileage. But a year in the carbon, was like 20 minutes for me.
So maybe just want to repeat this back. You ran a marathon in the 320 range in Nike pegs.
No, no, no. So like I think it was 340
Oh,
was
okay.
my Nike Pegs marathon.
Still,
And then 317, 320, something like that for my first marathon in carbon plated shoes, I think. I think that's what it was.
I would keep that story with the pegs in my back pocket, and then anytime something got tough, but it's like who's going to carry the butts? It's like I ran
Yeah.
a marathon in Nike pegs. I could run a half
Yeah.
in the just Takumi Sens, or whatever it is.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
it's
Yeah.
challenging.
Yeah, you know what's funny is Grant Fisher was pacing, I think it was at the Chicago Marathon I saw it, or maybe it was like a New York Marathon or something. He was running a pace group for a marathon a couple like in somewhat recently, and he was doing them in Nike pegs. And it was like a 250 pace group. And so it's just, whenever people are like, "Yeah, but wouldn't you say easy pace?" and you're talking about shoes. Can you tell me what you mean by easy pace, cuz I feel like we need to know. And I'm like, no, I feel like what Grant Fisher feels running at 250 marathon pace is pretty much what I feel running easy pace when I'm running in pegs. Otherwise, it doesn't make any sense for Grant Fisher to be a sponsored athlete because we can't listen to anything he says about shoes. That's useless to us otherwise. So like easy is relative, but I'm certainly not the fastest marathoner in pegs
Yeah.
because there are many people who have run much faster.
Yeah, I was getting dusted in my last 5K by a schooler, and and he looked like Nova Blast, and I talked to him after, and I got
Mhm.
closer, and he's like, "No, these are Asics," and I don't think he didn't buy running shoes or no shoes. He got them from
Yeah,
Academy or something, and I was like, "Oh,
yeah,
yeah, those aren't Nova Blast 4s." I'm like, "Yeah, it didn't matter. He's fast." You know.
yeah, yeah.
All right, cool. So now, I guess the big question is, have you run your fastest marathon, or you got some more to squeeze out here?
I mean, I don't know. I think I'm pretty close to having done it. I'll turn 45 later this year. I'm going to try to run for one more PB in Berlin in September. I think that there's still some meat left on the bone, so to speak, to do that, but it's just been hard. I think I've been moving a lot of pieces. I started getting coached. I've been incorporating much more weight training and doing some plyos and finding the right kind of like doses and like the timing of the doses, I think has been the real challenge. I feel like all those things are good, but like timing when to put them on, when to put them off, how much to put on and how much to put off has been the real kind of like tricky part that I haven't quite nailed down yet. So I feel like, I'm finally like, I guess, mature enough in my running to realize that like, okay, I can run 80-mile weeks. That does well for me. I don't know that a 90-mile week will give me that many gains. But if I can figure out how to get in this weight training and doing some plyos and then sprinkling that in well into the workout, I feel like that's where like the next level up unlock could come. At least that's the working theory at this point. So I brought on some coaches to help me try and figure that out. Feels like I've been overdoing it a little bit lately. It's also been hot, so
Mhm.
maybe that's probably why I'm feeling a little bit lethargic in the legs from time to time. But it's discouraging when you don't see progress quite as fast as like you used to when I was running, say, like even 5 years ago. You think, oh, I guess all my fastest races are behind me. But then sometimes I look around and I'm like, people are hitting PRs in their 50s still too. So I'm like, there can be time, but I don't know how much faster I can get.
Awesome. So Marcus wants to know, once you've run your fastest race, are you still going to train hard and, try to age group, get the best in age group?
I don't know. Like, I think that where it might go is like I'll still be training hard, but like training for like training for a PB and just training to be fit for a marathon are two different levels. And so like I forget which athlete said it. I want to say it was Nick Willis, but I don't think it was Nick Willis. But there was a professional athlete who was saying like, like age definitely has an effect on your ability to run fast, but its bigger effect is on your willingness to work hard enough to get faster. And I'm like, I felt that today on my run. It was hot out there, and I had a pretty like relatively light workout because I got that race this weekend. And the last rep was a 400 meter interval at 80 to 82 seconds. And I was like, I feel like I'm going to have to pretty much sprint to get this. That's like about mile pace, And so I was like, I don't know. I could run it at 85 and 86. Still would be hard work, you know?
Hmm.
I'd still be sweating like crazy. But you know, it's just like that's the kind of compromise that you sometimes make as like the clock is ticking down on your watch on how much left on the recovery. You're like, how hard am I really going to run this? How hard do I really have to work to get into that 82 seconds for the 400? It's a lot. And so at my age, so I think that like I'll still be running hard because I enjoy that. I enjoy road racing. I enjoy training for road races. But I think that you and I were in our 40s as we're talking about being in the 50s and then 60s. I see like my currently my old high school coach is getting ready to compete in the Pan Am Masters Championships.
Oh,
So he's running like the 800 meters. He's like 85 years old. So I feel like maybe that'll be more my speed. Maybe I won't be training for marathons, but maybe I'll be training for like an 800, which will probably feel really long.
yeah.
And so like I think maybe some masters track meets. I mean, I've done some already, and they're real fun. And so maybe something like that. Different kinds of adventures might take more precedence. But I can't envision like not running at all and not training for things. I just enjoy the kind of seasonality of running and like kind of having the training cycle to look forward to. So I don't think it would just be like, I've met other runners who have been running for a long time that are like, I just run kind of 5 or 6 days a week, same about amount of time, same about amount of distance, same kind of pace, because I just enjoy that. And I don't know that I would necessarily be happy with just that. So I'll still be training for races and stuff, but I don't know. It's hard to say until I get there. But like I've heard some people do like, well, I turned 50, so for that next 10 years, I get to reset all my PRs. And then when I turn 60, I'll reset all my PRs again.
Yeah.
That sounds fun too. But I'm also at the same time, I'm like, oh, am I going to want to run that last 400 hard when I'm 64, turning 65, when I'm 44, turning 45? The paces will be different, but like that dig down that you require for that, will I still have it? I don't know.
Hmm. Maybe if someone puts a baby Ruth at the end of the
Yeah,
yeah, Butterfinger
there's
weights,
yeah, some hot
Yeah.
pockets.
So, all right. So, well, starting at 44, like 5K, I mean, you could pick off different distances. What's your 5K PB, and are you going to try to break it this weekend?
I don't know. I don't know that I'm in shape for it. My training has been a little bit unusual, again with the travel, and then I just haven't been having a hard time with running into heat this year, and I don't know if that's just again trying to figure out that magic ratio of leg work and speed work and plyos. So I don't know. My PR is 1852 or something like that, high 18. And so I think for this weekend, I'm going to start running at about 6 minutes per mile pace, which is right around at that PR, and then kind of go from there. I have a feeling there'll be a couple of local, like high school kids from the cross country team that'll be there because they were last year. And so I feel like there might be one or two kids that I can kind of chase after. Most of them will be ahead of me, but I might be able to chase after a couple of kids and have someone to kind of run with. And if that's the case, then I think that maybe I'll be there. But I'll have another kind of bite at the apple at the end of the month too. So I'm thinking, let's continue trying to acclimate to the heat. Just have a really good kind of like mental kind of like toughening kind of day, and then see where we end up at the end of the month.
Yeah, one of the best things that I like about 5Ks is there's less likely of a chance of me getting lost out there, so
Yeah,
it's over in
yeah.
3. Great. And then, so do you think that you'll pick distances and run past a marathon distance, like past 50K, like Hard Rock or Western States Comrades, any of those races?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I'll go much farther than 50K at this point. I mean, there's a couple of longer trail races that I'd like to do. Like Black Canyon has been on my list for like half a decade at this point. It just has never worked out schedule wise for me to be able to do it. And so I think like maybe up to 100K would be it. I don't know that I want to do a 100-mile race. I just don't like running at night. And I also like I don't live at altitude. I don't have a ton of elevation that I can train on. So it's just, it's different than the kind of running that I normally do. I enjoy trail running adventures, but I like them in kind of like multi-day style rather than like one big chunk at a time with a bib on. And so like I don't know that those 100-mile races are exactly my speed. Never say never. Who knows? I just don't. I'm not super interested in like a 200-mile race. Doesn't even make sense to me. 100-mile race, maybe, because in the Midwest, we have a couple of them that aren't too crazy in terms of elevation gain. So, like, maybe that would be kind of fun just to see if, like, hey, is my all-day pace literally an all-day pace? I think it is, but let's kind of test that theory. Can I run that? Can I run at 140 beats per minute for 24 hours? I don't know. I always kind of thought I could, but only one way to find out, I guess.
I think there's a PB in your future. So what specifically are the levers, or are you a levers or a levers? It's levers, right?
Like when we're talking about which levers, are like we can pull on to try,
Yeah.
and then it's like that. But like, I think otherwise it's one of those weird things. It depends on the phrase. I use both, I think.
Okay. All right. So you made reference to plyometrics. Are you doing traditional strength training as well? And like how many times a week are you getting after it?
Yeah, so right now I'm not doing any because I'm running a 5K this weekend, so we're tapering. And when I got back from Eugene, my legs just felt like trash for a long time. And so I was like, I think I kind of need to just back off a little bit. Like I wasn't hitting any of my paces. I just wasn't feeling great during a lot of running. And so I was just like, and like the week before I had to hit like a squat PR and a deadlift PR in the same day. So I'm like, those things might be a little bit related why my legs are feeling a little bit not too snappy. But the previous kind of regimen and the regimen that I think I'll probably start after I have 2 5Ks this month, but after that, getting into Berlin, I'll probably do, I have a 9-day cycle. So like every third day for me is a hard day of some sort. And so when it comes to marathon training, at least for there's not a lot of time between the end of July and Berlin, but for the first probably August, or so, for the first half of that, whatever time I have left, I'll probably do a hard day and in terms of a workout session running, and then a leg day in the afternoon. And then the next hard day will be a hard day in the morning, and then a plyos day in the afternoon. And then that third hard day will just be a long run and then nothing afterwards. So basically one lifting day every 9 days, one plyo day every 9 days. But that's kind of how to just sprinkle it.
Awesome. And I don't know about you, but like for me, I feel like I'm like a lot of runners, very inconsistent with my strength training. And certainly the cross training, I definitely relate to not doing any cross training anytime it says do cross training. Like, oh yeah, rest day. Okay, cool. Skip that one. But I have found by hiring a coach, I have the mental load of worrying about what I'm supposed to be running. Should I give myself faster? Okay, I need to increase this. What should I be doing here? And now I don't have to think about that. I just run, and it has allowed me to focus more of my energy on those things like mobility and strength and nutrition that I kind of neglect. So have you found that to be true? Have you become more consistent?
Yeah, I've been more consistent with strength, but the main thing for that has been my schedule has kind of adjusted so that it makes it easier. So my daughter is on a rock climbing team, and it's a far drive away from our house to get to the rock climbing place, and that place has a really nice gym. So basically, a lot of the times it just ends up working out that like my leg day or my plyo day is on a rock climbing day. And so I could do either of those at that gym because I'm stuck there for like 2.5 hours. So I'm like, well, I usually get work done, but if I don't have a ton of work or if I have a leg day scheduled, then it's like I have no excuse because I'm like literally sitting next to a rack of weights while I'm waiting for my daughter to finish rock climbing. So that's what has enabled me to have a lot of consistency, is just a schedule that kind of forces me to do it. I was finding like habits and consistency are not about like, motivation or determination. It's about carving out spaces in your life. So that way the decision that you want to make is easy,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I started setting my alarm for 15 minutes earlier than I normally do. And after I wake up and drink my coffee and hit a little prayer, then I start into like a 15-minute like core routine, which I always neglect, and do a lot of like activation stuff, knees over toes on the staircase, and kind of building that in has made that happen with the time. So So for the coaching, do your coaches give you 2 weeks at a time, 1 week at a time? Do you have the whole plan, or do you just, how does that work?
It comes about like a month at a time. And sometimes it's different. Sometimes it's 2 weeks. Sometimes I'll get 3 weeks ahead of time. I don't really worry about it too much. I think the reason, part of why it's like a little bit like sometimes it's 2, sometimes it's 3, is because I have a weird travel schedule. And so, like a lot of times they're like, well, tell us when you're going to be flying, because then we won't schedule a workout for that day, kind of thing. And so a lot of it has to be very flexible, because my travel schedule gets weird. And it's going to be really weird for the summer. So
Yeah. And also on that note, like on travel, I know that like we talk about, or we've talked about like things you can do in training to get faster, but there's also like race day performance and race day nerves, and you can fumble the taper and fumble a lot of the days leading up to the race. And so how do you have any tips for people who might be traveling, because you travel a lot, that may be traveling to a race to kind of get settled, to relieve any extra stress?
I mean, the first thing I like to do, I try to go for a run as soon as possible. Like within reason. Like if I arrived somewhere at like 11:30 at night, I'm not going to be like, oh, I got to find a gym so I can get some miles in. But like I usually try to time my travel if it's possible, so that way I can like check into the hotel, go for a quick spin, get my legs spinning around, and then grab some food. And so it's like that's usually one way of kind of just reestablishing, like, all right, I'm in this new place, the blood has flowed, like let's reset and kind of like recalibrate to where we are.
And do you feel like when you go to like a new place or a new city, you're in a running community, you probably get recognized a lot because you are maybe the face of running influencers. Do you feel any added pressure when you run a race, or do you feel more support than anything?
I feel a lot of support. There's certainly pressure too, because people are like, rooting for me, and you don't want to let people down. And especially now that I'm being coached, I don't want to let my coaches down, because, they're putting so much work into it, and my running is very public. So like, if I have a coach associated with me, it's not just my successes or failures, it's then theirs, even if it's not their fault if I completely screw up a race. So like there are a lot of other kind of like considerations and things like that, but for the most part, it's support. I used to take it really I mean, not that I don't take running seriously now, but I used to like take the result very seriously, like overly seriously. And like if I didn't have a PR when I was making a PR attempt, like I just let it make me feel really grumpy, because I was like, well, I should feel bad because I let people down because someone else had written me a training plan or had provided all the support, and all those people were cheering for me. But I just felt like that was not actually what anyone wanted, and so like wasn't serving me, and it wasn't serving, the people that I was trying to, make happy. And so whatever the results are, sometimes you have a bad race, you can sulk about it for a little while, but my saying is always like, you could be disappointed in your race, just don't be a jerk about it, and so like that's always the attitude that I have. So like I might be disappointed if I don't have a good outcome, but it's still a race day. Lots of other people had great races. It's time to go celebrate, and we're also just done. Let's like put a nice punctuation at the end of a successful training block, even if the race wasn't great.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and your coaches are excellent. I used one of their plans to PB in Chicago for the Chicago Marathon.
Oh, great.
Yeah,
Awesome.
and I think one time Sage Kennedy did one of his Training Talk Tuesdays and answered one of my questions. So we're like best friends. So
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
Oh, you know what I forgot to ask? I can go back and put this one with like the how to get faster, but you were chasing the 3 hour mark for quite some time, and you had many attempts that were very close, and then you finally broke through, and you've broken that barrier twice. What was the difference? Was there anything that you did that was special to get you over that hump?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things. I think the one like I feel like kind of like the last straw, so to speak, was that I had a pacer. So like Ben Johnson also had a bib for that race at Grandma, so he wasn't like a bandit pacer. He was someone who was signed up for the race. And he was like, you know, I don't think it's going to be PR for me today. I'll pace you, I guess. And so he ran with me. And so when I was deep and hurting, you know, like, you know, past the 20-mile mark, I'm struggling and I'm not sure I can do it. I look over at him and he's hardly even breathing hard and he's smiling and waving at the crowds. I feel like that like just calmed me down so much to have someone that like knows what they're doing, has been here before, and can show you the way. You know, I just felt like that was like, I feel like the last piece that I couldn't figure out on my own. It was my 5th attempt, you know? And so like the last other attempts, I just didn't know how to get through that last kind of like 8K. It was so elusive. And I think the time right before that was a run in LA where I was running with Flores and Coach Jimmy. And, they were just like screaming at me the whole time, which I also respond well to food and to screaming. It's weird. So they were just screaming at me hard the whole time and like telling me that I had to keep digging and this is what it took to get to that sub 3. And I was like, I have to work this hard. I feel like if it feels like this, I'm not going to get it. You know, I was ready to give up. They're like, no, keep going. You're right there. And I'm like, I'm not. I'm totally not. And they're like, no, you are. And I thought that they were lying to me because I can't do math late in a race. And I was like, surely mathematically it's impossible. But I ended up actually being like only off by like 43 seconds or so. And so like those are the two things, like knowing how deep you have to dig to get there. And then also having someone show you the way. Those were like the two last things. And I guess like the third thing was like, I think I was kind of doing the right training. And doing the right level of training the whole time. It just took me like 3 cycles for it to kind of like take, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like one cycle is not enough for me to get to the place that I wanted to get. It really just took 3 cycles.
So you're going to be in Austin next week?
Yes, I will be. I believe Wednesday is the day.
Yeah, I'll probably see you up there.
Okay.
And then
very cool.
You're a food guy. Do you know how to eat the best tacos in Austin?
I don't
okay, here, I'm going to explain it to you. So you go into your car, you get in, and you drive an hour south to San Antonio. You go to literally any taqueria that is around. You drive back to Austin, and then you consume the tacos, and you just had the best tacos. Okay. There's a taco war if you didn't know. JK, Austin, just joking. I got jokes, okay? That's kind of what I do here at this channel. Those tacos in Austin are excellent. I lived in Austin for a couple years. I went to the University of Texas. I'm just joking. Now, I will be at the ASICS event on Wednesday, so if you want to come out and say hello, come catch some miles, and we'll do the dang thing. Also, the shoe portion of this video that I had with Kofuzi, I'll try to release that next Sunday. I'm super busy, obviously full-time job, kids, like you guys, training for a race, all the things, full life, which is why if you like and subscribe, become a member, it does help me to keep on keeping on. Till next time. Keep the same energy. Work on being better when I'm 70. Your drip is just a water spring. You know I drip different, just the 7 seas.